First of all, I just want to say that I think it's a very nice festival. I really like this combination of theory and the practice. You will see it in a minute in the way how we work in the office. So congratulations for the organizers, and I think for all of you that you came here and you're working in such a intense few days. So congratulations for you. When I've been asked to come here to give a lecture, I wasn't really sure how to prepare the subject of the topic. But in the office, we thought that it's a very interesting moment. Every lecture, actually, we're trying to see as a moment in the office when we have to say, just for 5 minutes, okay, let's think about what we really do in the office, because like every day we really work a lot and very intense, in a very workshop way, actually. So every time the lecture, workshop, publication, an article about the office or the work we do is a moment for us of reflection, and we're trying to figure out where we are and what was the progress, for example, from the last lecture or last publication. So when we heard the topic resilient architecture, we thought that somehow we do resilient architecture. And we wanted to figure out what's the link that somehow connects all the projects that we did in the recent years. So I would like to share with you 5 projects from the office that somehow for us are related with resilient architecture. And the way how we describe that, we called it dematerializing architecture. So this is a story of 5 projects from the office of dematerializing architecture. Opa. It's a story of 5 projects located in Spain, Italy, Haiti, and Poland. The projects that understand architecture wider than its physical aspects. Each of them in different way deprives the physical substance. 1, by physical destruction. 2, by breaking the edge between the nature and the building. 3, by blurring the border between the floor, the wall, and the roof. 4, by capturing feelings and relations. 5, by using the air as the material. That's the first story. It's a story of a ghost of a village. It's a project that we designed for the Museum of Architecture in Poland a few years ago, and we were asked actually to do an exhibition about the office. There was some kind of festival of well, not festival, but like a long-term project of curators from Poland about young architectural offices, and we were asked to show the office. But we thought that what is interesting about how we work and how we see architecture is not showing off and describing ourselves, creating, marketing, and so on, but just work. So we really wanted to show and share the process we do in the office with the public. And we proposed to the museum to establish an office for 1 month in the museum. And literally for 1 month we've been working in the office. We transformed the whole space that was an old magazine in the office to a very wide, very abstract place. And for this 1 month we were doing just one project. The topic that we found for this, let's say, experimental exhibition, we found it with the curator of the exhibition, and it was based on an article that we found in some old newspaper in Poland in the 90s about a village that literally disappeared. It was a very interesting story because all the people, because of the edge, because of the economical movement, they just moved to other cities or they just died. So literally, if you go there, there is no one living again in this village. So we thought that it is somehow unfinished architectural story, and we would like to recreate and create once again this, let's say, ghost village. We thought it's a very local problem, but on the other hand, very global, because we have this, for example, in Spain, a lot of buildings that are abandoned. There are too many flats, too many houses, and so on. So we tried to work with that. And for doing that, I will talk about the project just very, very briefly. I would like to show you especially this philosophy of work. So what we did, we designed this village with new people inside of this village to see how you can recreate this kind of places. And what we found, we treat it as a study case of a village, and we try to understand what is so different between the village and the city. And for us, somehow the village, what makes it very interesting is that it's very personal. You know everyone. If someone is in love with someone else, so you know that. If someone has an affair with another person, you also know that. So we wanted to base all the project on relations. And to show the process, the second part of the exhibition was actually the exhibition of this one-month work. To show this process, we established a very, very long table in the middle of this white abstract place. And I know you couldn't be there, so I would like to show you how it was to go along this table. So basically, the whole space was divided in two parts. The first part was a kind of, let's say, description of some important moments in other projects that we did in the office. We thought it's very interesting to understand what are the strategical points, like a break points in the project, what makes them actually so interesting, and how you get to the main topic of the project. Is it because you have a great idea? Is it an accident? Or is it, I don't know, a small talk with someone else who is not from the office? So somehow we wanted to analyze that through all the other projects that we did in the office. Some of them you will see also, like this school in Haiti, in a few minutes as the last project in this 5 stories lecture. But what was very interesting for us was to analyze the process, to show the process, and to share the process with people. So the second stage, the second part of the exhibition was this 30 days, showing this 30 days of designing the village in Poland. And the way how we did that, all the project we did on models and on hand drawings. We do that a lot in the office. We think it opens a lot imagination, and it's something that like visual and very perfect renders they don't have. They just want to show you the exact answer for the project. And when you design in a much more abstract way, I think you can somehow incorporate the client to work with you and to open also his imagination. So we wanted to show a very important moments in the project. As you can see, the project is growing up from analyzing how you can transform relations of the people, like love, like betrayed, like hate, to architectural gesture. And this is somehow how we try to find those relations between those people. To create this ghost village, we invited for the project other people that were not architects. There were sociologists, psychologists, a comic writer who actually described the whole village and created the characters of the people. So somehow we wanted to take advantage of the fact that we were asked to design a village and treat it as a kind of a research laboratory for, in this case, for a village, but also in the global aspect, this abandoned cities or abandoned places, abandoned houses. This is more or less the final effect. As you can see, it's very dense. We thought that this is something what makes a village much more different than a city, let's say, space, because you have a very dense structures. That's a very, very small village. That was the last model we did on the exhibition. So somehow we thought it's making it much more dense. It's very important for us to make those relations between people even stronger. So here you can see some other images of the exhibition. We worked a lot with the light. We wanted to blur the context to make the line and the timeline of the exhibition much stronger. So as you can see, there is no Photoshop. You couldn't really see the edges of the space. We worked with the light to blur it somehow, and we used one material to cover the whole space. That's the entrance. You go around the table. Here you can see that's a very thin, simple table, not to distract and just to concentrate on the models and on those strategical moments of the project that we found in each of the projects. And here you can see some models that we do in the office. We work in that way very, very often. And the final effect of the village. As you can see, in some moments, the buildings, they just literally open for another building. For example, in someone is introverted. Like in that case, there is no other window, no other hall in the building, just to contemplate the sky. So we tried to somehow introduce these characters and feelings to architecture. And that's the last village, I suppose. Yep, and this is the whole table, the whole story of this 30 days of working on the project. I think that was like 30 meters long table. That's another story. It's a story of a second life of a building. In that case, how we understand the materializing architecture is probably the most obvious way how we do it. So in the first one, I showed you how we work with emotions, with human behavior and so on. And we think if this is the starting point, it makes architecture much less formal. You don't really design the form. It's not important. What is important is to translate this relation into the architectural space. In that case, that was much more literally. It's another exhibition we did in Warsaw last year. It's called Second Life of a Building. It's an abandoned school in Warsaw. We've been asked to design an exhibition there. The topic of the exhibition was the reconstruction of Warsaw after the Second War. So we thought we were trying to find a way how to create an architecture or display of the exhibition that is not, it's both background and the hero of the exhibition, let's say. So we wanted to find an answer that somehow is related to this destruction topic. And we thought that it's a very site-specific project. The building is very beautiful, actually, inside. And we wanted to do a project that is related with some lines in the building that analyze the building very well. And also, once again, we thought it's a very, very global problem. We have a lot of buildings that are not used, and we don't really know what to do with them. We just see it in a very 0-1 situation. Or we build, or we collapse. So we thought between those two worlds, we can say there is a bunch of other solutions. So what we proposed to the curators, we wanted to cut some parts of the building and in the left parts make the exhibition space. Here you can see some study cases of that. We wanted to leave a wall and the floor, 2 walls and the floor, a kind of an island. So as you can imagine, you can get to a very, very different and very a big variation of this kind of solutions. And with that, we wanted to create a space that somehow is unified, but on the other hand is very rich and leave the atmosphere of the first life of the building. But in the same time, it creates the second life of the building. Also, what was very interesting for us was to see, is it possible to design a totally new function in a building that was never designed for that? Because we were working in the school and we had to put there an exhibition, so a kind of like a temporary museum. So the way how we did the same with the furniture, also all the material that you will see at the end in this exhibition was used from the school. So somehow we redesigned and we tried to find the second life of all the furniture that you can find in that building. And to do that, because that was a kind of experiment for us, and we weren't very sure if we can do it actually, if we can manage to treat, let's say, an execution team as artists, kind of, but because there were like 20 people working on that project. I mean, like builders, and they had to do a kind of artistic work. So to convince the curator and to show them how to work, we established our own workshop of the office. We very often do that. So we went for 3 days to the school, and literally we did a part of the exhibition. So that's actually the first prototype that we did. As you can see, well, before we started to find some patterns, how you can, with very basic tools that you use in building site, what kind of patterns, what kind of drawings you can get from the building just by taking the layers of the building. And that's the effect that we were able to do with our own hand, with very simple tools, as I said. And that's the final effect. So as you can see, that was not only about taking the layers down, but also by converting them. For example, here you can see the floor that we took from the floor, and we transformed it to the wall. So somehow the second life of the wall, of the floor, is the wall. And here you can see more situations of that. All the furniture were found in the place. Some of them, there are like bookshelves, and we made table for exhibitions out of them. In some parts, for example, this room, we called it a flower. The composition of the design of this display comes up from the furniture that we found inside. Those are the original furniture, the table and 2 shelves that you can have there. So the rest of the room followed the rule that we analyzed in this very small specific part of the building. As you can see, all those, also the paintings that we had from the curators, we also create this prolongation of this composition. And in other situations, we try to use the wall of the building as if it were a frame, also to think about this second use of this part. Or sometimes the air became a frame for some paintings just by leaving open door of the building. So, and that was the room that was the most strange from the rest of the part of the building. That was the last room actually of the exhibition. And to end the exhibition, we proposed to change the technology of distracting. So instead of taking layers down, as you could see in the previous pictures, what we did, we just did thousands of small holes in the whole room, and there was just one object in the middle of the room, which was actually the letter of the original architect that designed the school, which somehow was related with the theme of the exhibition. But somehow at the end, we wanted to somehow say thanks to the architect of the original project. Here are some more examples. When there was just vertical way of making the display, we decided to make a very horizontal line that you just follow going in a horizontal way. So you can see that sometimes the cut goes like that, and it goes in a very radical way. If it was through the furniture, we were just cutting furniture. If it went through the doors, I think there's one, probably you won't see that from here, but there is a door, and it's cut also more or less in the middle. So we tried to be very, very radical with this concept and not to go step backwards. And yeah, and I very like this picture. I think that's the pictures that shows the first life and the second life of this building. The third story is a story of a house that we've just finished it this month. It's a house that we're doing in Spain. It's a project that I did with Rodrigo Garcia Gonzalez. He's a very good friend of mine. We work together on different projects. He's an architect, but also a designer. And also with Gonzalo Del Val, another architect from Spain. I couldn't actually bring you the latest pictures. Like last week, we did pictures with professional photographers, so I still don't have them. I will just show you some pictures from the building site. But anyway, what is interesting about this project for us, speaking about resilient architecture, or in our case, dematerializing architecture, was to break the rule between the inside and outside of the building. So that's the plot. The plot is very close to Madrid. It has a very beautiful, well, you won't see it probably, but Madrid is somewhere here. It's very, very beautiful. There are a lot of trees. And the client was very characteristic. It was a writer. So that's a very interesting process how we get to the final concept of this project, because I was living in Poland when we started doing this project. Rodrigo was living in Sweden, and the writer was actually living in Madrid. So there was like 3 points in the whole Europe that we had to connect somehow. So first month, the way how we were working, we literally worked through emails and text. We thought it's interesting for the writer and easier for him than for us to work with text, but somehow we tried to follow him and also write some nice emails. But from the emails, we tried to understand the way how he lives and the way how he works. Because that was the first thing he told us, that he works where he lives. So somehow we have to connect those two words that he has. And the way how he lives and the way how he works is that he walks around a lot. Just walk through the house, walk through the garden, walk through the street. And from time to time, he sits down and he writes down some few words for his next book. So this is, I think, the drawing that shows very well the way how he works. And that was the first proposal, but we didn't really went with that proposal through. I really like this one because that was a big table that divided the space of the house. So you could literally sit down everywhere you wanted just to make some notes, even in the bathroom. But at the end, that was too radical. So we started exploring more and more. And in this way of process, what we did at the end, every day we tried to finish the day and this conversation via mail and so on with one singular project and one singular proposition. Sometimes it was finished with a drawing. Sometimes there was a small model, a collage, and so on. And at the end, what we did, we proposed 12, I think there were 15, but we showed him 12 concepts. And from those 12 concepts, he well, we together choose this one, the one that we followed. And this is a project that somehow reflects in the best way the way how we works. Because for him, what is important is the inside of the building, a very rich inside of the building, but somehow the outside is very, very simple, and it's not so interesting for him. So on one hand, we based all the concept of the drawing he did. That's the drawing of the writer that at the beginning we didn't really like. We thought like, oh my God, that's the end of our collaboration. But after a few discussions, we thought that it's a big challenge to do something with that. And we tried to create this kind of many situations space, how you can walk through it. So there's a very simple shape. It's divided in few, let's say, houses, boxes, spaces. I don't know how you can call that. Here you can see very well how it works. So in this really simple space, we create a very rich way how you can walk on it or walk through this building, so you don't really get bored. For example, there is this staircase that you can see here. It's movable, so you can, for example, move it from here and you can put it where we are now. So you can create like every time a new way how you can go through the house. I will show you a few examples of the interior. Neither of them is actually the one that we're doing now, but that's the first one. As you can see, there is a big variation of situation how you can walk on it. And there is one more thing that I would like to share with you, is the tree. Those drawings are not very clear, but here there is a big tree that we didn't know how to avoid it. So we thought that instead of, I don't know, making a strange shape of the building, we will try to incorporate this tree into the house so that it became a room for the tree. And we thought that it will make the building much richer, because sometimes you can also, when you walk through the building, you can go outside, you can get inside, and in Spain, the climate is totally fine for that. So this is actually the main entrance. You go through the room with the tree. In the background, you can see the kitchen, you can see another spaces. So once again, there are many ways how you can get to the house, how you can get out from the house, many situations you can create, a kind of a different style interior, but basically what is important for us is not the material, it's the way how you move around the building, and this kind of images where you can see there is a terrace in front of the house, there is some connection there is the room for the tree. So once again, many ways how you can go through the building. Some pictures from the building site. It's a very simple structure. It's also based on industrial buildings, so we wanted to do it very, very fast. And as you can see, it's very simple, yet when you go inside, it became more and more complex and more richer in terms of space. And that's probably the most important, that's the most important picture for us, because it shows the room, this one actually, that's the drawing I show you before with the entrance to the house with the tree. So that's the entrance with the tree. That's the room of the tree. And hopefully, well, I know how it looks like, but this is kind of the last shape it's going to have. The fourth story I would like to share with you, it's a contemporary building. It's a building that we did for Venice, for the Biennale of Venice in 2012. And it's a very experimental project. In the office, also, we do a lot of experiments. We really like making experiments. And, well, somehow we're trying to connect like think tank and execution office in the same time. So via like experiment, research, knowledge, and some interests that we have, we're trying to find topics that are very interesting for us, and we're trying to adapt them to architecture. That was one of the results of this kind of way of thinking. And it's a project that is totally made out of air. It's a project presented for the competition in France, for the Institution of Architecture in France. It was two-stage competition. For the first stage, we presented a building, which is called the Webere. That was made out of air. It's literally like this kind of buildings where you pump, well, that's not this building, but like let's say it's a membrane building that you pump air inside, and you create a very simple structure from air. And somehow we wanted to make it a creature form, so like a human shape form, because we thought it adapts very well to any urban situation, like you can see on that picture. And it's very easy to move and remove. and also you can add some additional legs or hands, so it makes it more complicated, more complex, the building. And in the end, when you just want to take it, or you just, instead of demolishing it, you just take it and you literally put it into your bag and you go home. So that was the first concept we presented. We were lucky to pass to the second stage of the competition. We did some examples with paper, with some garbage and stuff like that. And we created some kind of very simple methodology, how you can do it at home with iron and tapes. Yet, after passing to the second stage, we were invited to develop the project through the workshop, as you hear. And we realized that this methodology somehow is also very difficult because there are very weak points. But still, we wanted to work with the air, and we thought that in terms of doing the way how we wanted to do it before, we will use it in a different way, the air, and and we came up with this concept that it's very, very simple. It's actually makes the building opposite in the way that we wanted to do it before. So in terms of pumping the air inside of the building, what we did, we proposed to create a kind of building made out of bottles, which has air inside. But there is a vacuum in the whole structure, plastic structure. This is more or less the plans of the project. Because on the workshop we were working all the time handmade, so we thought it will be very strange to make a digital presentation at the end. And because all the topic of the competition was based on the garbage, so we thought, okay, we're gonna take just all the cartoon boxes, pizza boxes of all the participants, and we will draw the whole project on it. This is the elevation detail. As you can see, we used garbage bottles, and those are the places in Venice where we propose to collect bottles. And the section which is actually the most important, here you can see more clearly how it works. So there's air inside of the bottle, but there is a vacuum outside. So in that way you create a structure which is very, very compact and very solid. And it can become a building if you do it well. And also the way you do it is very simple. You roll it on a big balloon, which is also made out of air. So once again, all the time you work with the air. There's no additional structure, there's no additional materials, no additional elements. So to convince the jury, we proposed, well, we did the first prototype once again on this competition, on the second stage. We call it Sushi de Webere. I just do it every time, is because it's a very good way how to teach someone how to make sushi. So. And this is actually the first prototype we ever did. We didn't really know if it's going to work, but it worked, so we continued with the project. Now, this one was made with it was made in a very home way. There is a vacuum machine from home, the garbage we collected by ourselves. As you can see, it's stable. At least this one was stable during like 5 minutes, then it collapsed, but that was the first prototype. So we were quite happy with that. And we showed the results to the jury. They really liked I thought I had the picture of this prototype, but anyway, we were lucky to win the competition. And after that, we were asked by different institutions that were related with sustainable architecture to show this project in different countries. This one was exposed in Paris. Every time we tried to go to the bigger scale and experiment with different types of vacuum, like plastic, or different type of machines, different type of bottles, and so on. This one we called it White Edition. It's a Paris edition. Well, this is the first picture, the prototype. As you can see in this one, we reached one, and it was very, very nice. You couldn't really see what was the material from the distance, but when you were getting closer, you could see that there was bottles, but it was kind of like transparent, abstract. We really liked the effect. Then we were invited by the Museum of Modern Art in Wrocław, in Poland, also to make an exhibition about that. So we did this, and that was probably the biggest one we ever did. And after that, we moved it to the museum, so to show that it also can be work as a wall or kind of division, like work in smaller scale related with object. And the last one was in Venice. At the end, we weren't able to make a structure, a body. We just did 3 arc forms because of some regulations, let's say, and lack of space and so on. But we really wanted to have at least 3 objects because we thought that in that way we show that it's architecture and not art, unless we know that it's a project between art and architecture. So this is the balloon, the project of the balloon, and those are the pictures of the final effect. This is Venice. This is the way how we do it. We invited all the participants of the competition to join us, and we were doing it all together. So here you can see also the other 10 finalists of the competition. For that, we used the bottles that were supposed to be recycled after the exhibition because also of some legal law, let's say, for this kind of events like the Biennale of Architecture. Here you can see some final effect, and I really like this picture because it shows very well that maybe for us it's a kind of art project or maybe experimental pavilion, but for a kid it changes totally the scale you have. So for a small person it becomes a building, something really, really big. And kids really love that, and we really like that we were managed to convert a place in Venice that wasn't really very public space. It's very attractive in terms of the localization, but it's not so attractive in terms of things you can do there. So that was really nice because the kids really loved the project. As you can see, they were jumping on it, climbing on it, and we did some tests. 4 people could stay on that, and that was really, really still stable. And to show you how the kids loved, sorry. So to show you how the kids work with this kind of buildings, I will show you this. That's our thanks video to the children from Venice. Also, something that maybe it's interesting to add for you is that this project was also about time. Like every building has its life. So also in that case, we thought that it will be very interesting if this building at the end collapses or literally dies. So that was actually a temporary pavilion, and we also thought that it can be a kind of discussion about how we forgot about as a society, as a global society, how we forgot what is temporary architecture, especially of this kind of events like Expo, Biennale. It's a kind of fashion, let's say, festival where every country, every architect wants to show kind of a firework, like a very, very big or very nice, very beautiful building. But it's very strange on the other hand, because for that, very often they are designed by technologies that are used normally for everyday buildings. So you use walls or technologies that you use for buildings that will probably survive 20 years, and you use them for a 3 months building. So it's a kind of, I think we got confused somewhere with thinking about temporary architecture, so that we weren't really afraid if this building collapsed or not. We thought that's somehow also the role of temporary architecture, to show that it's not made out of materials that are solid or for the whole life. And as you can see, well, I don't know if you can see that because it's quite dark, but the kids really loved it. No, sorry. There is one more. Okay. Sorry. Well, there's thank you, I know you. So the fifth and the last, I still have 6 minutes. The last story is about a school that it's almost finished. We're doing it in Haiti. It's a project that we started a few years ago for the foundation. It's called Haiti Polska, in a collaboration with the Chamber of Architects in Poland. That was a competition. We were also lucky to win the competition. And what we did, we proposed a project that we called it Towards. It's a building, it's a very long building that divides the plot in two parts, and you have like two different patios on left side and on the right side. One is for like very all the education things that you have related with sport, with physical engage of the children, and the other one is a green zone for more quiet, more private classes, let's say. So that was one part what was very important for the building. But the other one, and this is why we think it's related to this kind of topic of dematerializing architecture, is that we wanted to work with, we wanted to reconvent or rethink the typology of school. So as you can see, this is more or less the evolution of schools. And when we did the research about Haiti, the schools that they have a lot is this kind of schools or maybe that kind of schools. But basically every type, web building, school building, educational building is made out of, I'm simplifying, but it's made out of two zones. One is for communication, mostly it's a long corridor, and the other one is classrooms. So you go from zone A to zone B, from zone B to zone A, and you never mix that. So it's very, very ordered the way how school works. And we thought that it's a good moment to think if we can, first of all, redesign the typology of school, but also with the architecture, affect the way how you use the building and how you educate children. So the drawing you can, or the diagram you can see on the right side is the final conclusion and the project we presented. As you can see, we literally blurred the corridor, and we also once again worked with time. In every school you have 40, well, I don't know, maybe not always 45 minutes, but you have like, let's say in Poland, it's 45 minutes of classes, and then you have 10 minutes break, and then 45 minutes of classes once again. So actually this building works with time once again. So we thought, why don't we do a building where you can use the whole building in like education space, 100% of the building, but then when there is a break, you just use the whole building as a corridor. So we wanted to blur this edge between those two zones, and this is the final effect. And on the other hand, we were conscious that it has to be functional, the building. And because of weather conditions, we were able to design a building where you can walk around the building and use it as a corridor somehow. So we just had to protect the whole zone from the whole, let's say, path from the rain. But also, when you want to go through the building, when there is a break, there is no problem with that, and you can also cross the building from one patio to another. So that's very, very easy and very functional the way it works. That's the final effect. Here you can see the model we did for the competition as well. If we go a little bit, look a little bit with details, you can see that every shape is a kind of C-form model, but it's not very ordered. We tried to use it as a very, very simple, basic rule how you can create any class. And then by changing the position, the shape, by rolling it, and so on, we create the whole space. That was very important for us to show that we were working with very simple, traditional, somehow traditional method of making a building, because we knew that in Haiti there are no like very advanced technologies to do a building, I don't know, like in 1 month or in very complex technologies. So we thought we have to work with very simple, very primitive somehow ways how you build buildings. So as you can see, it's very simple. There are like columns, 3 walls. That's what you need to have the roof. And then the floor of the building is just a foundation in the same time. So we were just using the variation of those 3 types you use in architecture. And this picture also shows something very important for us in terms of dematerializing architecture. As I said before, we wanted to create a school that you can explore, that is really, for a kid, a place that you have to discover, and is full of mystery, full of surprises, and so on. But you work, like somehow you have this interaction between people, your body, and the building. So that's why if you see the building, there is a small, the plot is a little bit, there is a slope on the plot, like 5 meter difference. So we thought we will try to make advantage out of that. and we create this kind of very smooth way how you walk through the building. So sometimes literally the foundation becomes a bench. So we wanted to also break this very typical, very traditional way how you use, for example, a column or a bench, or not a bench, a foundation, and so on. So this is more or less the final effect. Here you can see those two zones of the building, one of the classroom, children, they're playing in the green zone. That's the zone for sports, so they are playing football. There is a zone when you can park a bus with children. And there's another topic. Those drawings are not very clear, but I'll just go very briefly through that. There's another topic very important in that building, is that we try to, it's a matter of how we use the atmosphere of the building. So as you know, it's a very, very warm country. So on one hand, there are a lot of problems with that, because you have to think about ventilation, you have to think about there is a lack of water and so on. So we wanted to create a building that make advantages from something that from the first point of view, it's like a weak point of the country or atmosphere in the country. So we designed the building, the whole building, in the way that it's 9 structurally separated buildings. There is, first of all, there is a dilatation between 9 segments of the building. So it's very, very well resistance for the earthquake, for all the like this kind of movements in the ground, because it's not one building and it doesn't really break. It works, each building works separately. That's one thing. The other thing is that each of the building has different heights. So at the end, with this kind of cascade of roofs, we take the water from the rain and we put it into the tanks. So we reuse it once again in the building. And also, thanks to that, we can have a natural ventilation between one classroom and the other one. This is, once again, the models that we did for this project. As you can see, they're very, very simple. Every time it's a variation of one of the model. Maybe it's a little bit bigger, maybe it's rounded, and so on. So it's not a very complex building, actually, in terms of how you do it. Here you can see the breaks between the roofs. This is where the air goes out from the rooms, and also the way how we collect the water. And this is more or less, we do, as you can see, a lot of big models as well. Here you can see more or less how it works inside. Also on those pictures, you can find the differences between levels, between the classrooms from the 0th ground and the 5th meter at the end of the building. As you can see, it's a very, very smooth building, and it's very related with the surrounding in a very smooth way. The way how they do it, sorry. Sorry for that. I'm not very skilled with this kind of programs. So the way how they build it also is very, very simple. Sorry. Okay, that's the deal. So it's very simple in terms of how you make the building. It's divided in few stages. Also, that was important for us to somehow show to the builders how to make the first, for example, part of the building. So after that, they can continue even if we're not there. Well, actually, during the whole building process, there was one person from the office in Haiti, but that was very important for us to show that with very basic and very traditional methodology and structure, you can create a very complex and rich building in terms of space and the way how you use it. And last few pictures of that, you can see how we work in the office. We do some renders, of course, but we like to make drawings on it. For us, it's easier to think when we make drawings or models. Those are more or less, it's a very simple building in terms of the visual aspect. It's a very simple rooms. You can see on the left side there is a patio for sport and a green patio on the right side. And from the outside also it's a very simple building. You can see the roofs where we accumulate the water, and also this ways how you can go through the building from one patio to another one. And here this is probably what shows very well the way how we think it's going to work. You have this zone for sport, for activities and so on, and another patio, which is a green patio for like silent classes and so on. And just the last sentence, also that was a kind of a manifesto for us that a school is something between, something in the middle between fun that you can have on your left side and a quiet place where you can contemplate and do something individual. And that's some pictures from the building site. It's made in a metal structure. Here is, I don't have the last picture because it's still ongoing, but that's, on the other hand, the first drawing that we did for the whole concept, and I would like to finish with this first drawing of this project. Thank you very much.
Ми дуже дякуємо. Можливо, у вас є запитання? Буквально одне-два запитання.
Where do you find your inspiration? How do you start to work with new projects?
We really like a process of designing, and we very focus on the process. I think it's a mixture. I used to work in Japan for some period, and I think it's a mixture of the way how people work in Japan and in Europe. So we never, almost never, just if there is really, like, I don't know, a very tense moment and that we have no time to explore, but normally what we do, we really explore a lot at the beginning. For some projects, we can even do, like, I don't know, 1,000 short concepts or drawings. In the office, we have walls where we put small drawings, like on papers. So I would say at the beginning, and this is what we really like, we really don't want to know what we are doing. So we're trying to find the concept through the process of this, let's say, a lot of exercise drawings and very conceptual, very abstract drawings and sketches and models. I think it's very interesting because normally we're trying to find the perfect solution all the time, and we're trying not to find perfect solution, but something that maybe surprises us. For example, the school, there's no school anymore, but the school project, that was quite interesting because when we were doing it, in some point we had 3 concepts that we wanted to follow. And actually that was the worst one for us. And we thought, okay, we know how to do this one, it's going to be super nice, super cool. The other one is, we found it very experimental, but we thought about this one that is maybe not so interesting, I don't know, comparing with other 2. And we thought, okay, let's do this one because we don't really know where we're going to get with this project. So we followed the project. We choose as for the, to explore a concept that from the very beginning for us was probably the less attractive. So I would say that's one thing. It's a process, a very rich process of looking for answers and not being afraid of making mistakes, of making bad drawings, ugly drawings, or crazy stuff. That's the first thing. And I would say the second one is, this one is probably more personal. I like reading, for example, books that are not related with architecture. I like things that are not related with architecture at all. I think there is a big field of investigation, not in architecture, but in parts of art, or maybe not art, but life, that are totally on different side of architecture. And I think we always, in each of those 5 projects, you can probably see that, every time we're trying to work between something and something. So I would say that's also some kind of maybe common thing. Thank you for the question.